Whitney Houston is synonymous with dynamic, powerhouse vocals, high fashion looks, and I Will Always Love You.
Grammy.com right now.
Oh, wow.
First of all, you look wonderful.
Thanks.
Amazing. You are a musical legend. You're a Grammy legend. What is it like being here at the Clive Davis party, a man so instrumental to music?
This particular night, my cousin is being honored for 50 years in show business. That's amazing enough.
That's not bad, right?
There was a time, however, when at best she was just the daughter of renowned vocalist Cissy Houston, a burgeoning model, and the cousin of Dionne and Dee Dee Warwick. Exactly how did this diva in diapers go from providing background vocals and modeling swimsuits to sitting atop the pop music scene? It all started with a little album entitled Whitney Houston. In February of 1978, Whitney Houston, age 14, stepped from behind the shadow of her mother to perform Tomorrow at Manhattan's Town Hall. That performance garnered her a standing ovation. A year prior, she provided background vocals on Michael Zager Band's Life is a Party. Singing, of course, was nothing new to Whitney. She debuted as a soloist in the New Hope Missionary Baptist Church Choir at age 11. Singing was also in her blood. Her mother, Emily Drinkard, better known as Cissy Houston, hailed from the famed Drinkard Singers and was a famed background vocalist. She even had a few albums of her own, both as a soloist and as a member of the Sweet Inspirations. During the recording of background vocals for Chaka Khan, Cissy told Chaka that she had a daughter who could sing. The following day, Whitney contributed background vocals for a song entitled Clouds, and on another day, another song entitled Our Love's in Danger. At 16, she was discovered by a modeling agent and signed a contract to appear as a junior model, launching a very successful career as a model. She appeared in various spreads and ads across a number of magazines and was the second black woman on the cover of 17 magazine, with the first being a woman by the name of Joyce Wilford, who is actually still alive as of the uploading of this video. She recorded demos that were shopped around to labels, but Emily Drinkard Houston was determined that Whitney would finish high school before inking a deal. Upon graduating high school, she continued the pursuit of a deal, auditioning for CBS Records in 1982, an audition which was oddly photographed from the waiting room to the audition itself, and was featured on a New York-based group Material's album, One Down, on the song Memories. A model, recording artist, and performer, something was bound to happen for her, and it did when Gary Griffith, an A&R man at Arista Records, convinced Clive Davis to watch her perform at Sweetwater's nightclub. Thanks to that performance, on April 10th, 1983, Whitney Elizabeth Houston was signed to Arista Records. Just as Clive had done with Phyllis Hyman before, he introduced Whitney Houston to the masses on the Merv Griffith Show in June 1983. From The Wiz. She was almost on The Cosby Show and had a cameo on Gimme a Break.
We just covered the loan deposit on this terrific store we found.
Oh, that's wonderful, honey.
And do you know it'll be available in the fall, and it's right across the street from the college.
right across from the college. Hey, that's a good idea. You know what? Listen, while you go to just hear me out. Wait, you can watch the shop while she goes to school on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Then you can watch the shop while she goes to school on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. You don't have to go. Okay, hey. You know there's night school? No. You close the shop at 6 o'clock, then we can all go to school again.
She also did jingle work and appeared in commercials, making it abundantly clear that her star was rising. Despite this rising profile, Clive Davis was adamant about not rushing her debut album.
Line job. Davis knows the difference and uses all the tools. This Hollywood party featured stars like Dionne Warwick and Jermaine Jackson. The gathering was a Davis innovation to introduce one of his newest singers, Whitney Houston. Leading songwriters and producers on the West Coast turned out for this showcase. The attraction was the Davis name. The purpose was to interest some of those well-known writers and producers in working with the unknown Houston.
What he did do was hold various listening parties in Los Angeles and New York, where essentially he paraded her around to songwriters and producers, who also had the pleasure of watching her perform. After Michael Masser saw her perform, he produced a duet between her and Teddy Pendergrass entitled Hold Me, which was a top 10 R&B and adult contemporary hit. She also recorded with Jermaine Jackson, who'd recently switched labels from Motown to Arista. They did the song Take Care of My Heart and Don't Look Any Further, the latter of which was discarded. Production of her debut album did not begin until Kashif wrote a song entitled You Give Good Love for Roberta Flack. Flack turned the song down, but Kashif could hear Whitney Houston doing the track. She traveled to his studio and did the song in one take. Impressed, Kashif did another song with her entitled Thinking About You. She'd also provide backing vocals on his album Send Me Your Love. She reunited with Jermaine Jackson for a cover of Anne Murray and Dave Loggins' Nobody Loves Me Like You Do. The two performed the song and Take Good Care of My Heart on episodes of As the World Turns. He also produced a track entitled Someone for Me for Houston. In August, Masser presented Clive Davis with Saving All My Love, a song he originally co-wrote for Marilyn McCoo and Billy Davis Jr. Sissy, a staunch Christian, was against its themes of adultery and infidelity. Inspired by her real-life affair with an unnamed married man alleged to be Jermaine Jackson, Whitney decided to record it. Clive Davis was on the quest for a crossover pop single, and Gary Griffith found it for him. Entitled How Will I Know, and originally meant for Janet Jackson, whose management team turned it down. After a rewrite by producer Nerida Michael Walden, who was also working on Aretha Franklin's Freeway of Love, the track was recorded in October of 1984. In December, she recorded her rendition of The Greatest Love of All, which Davis did not want her to record, and thus placed it as nearly the last track on the set. Her duets with Jermaine Jackson and Teddy P were added to fill out the remainder of the album. On Valentine's Day, 1985, almost 2 years after she'd initially been signed, Arista released her debut album, which was eponymously titled. Critics lavished praise on the body of work, with the New York Times' Stephen Holden saying, along with an appealing romantic innocence, Houston projects the commanding dignity and elegance of someone far more mature. Liam Nacy of The Globe wrote, the album contained some of the loveliest pop singing since the glory days of Dionne Warwick. The LA Times wrote that Whitney Houston is a singer with enormous power and potential, and the Rolling Stone declared the album an exciting preview of coming attractions. Billboard magazine lavished it one of the most flawless launches in recent memory. 8 days later, Arista released her debut single entitled You Give Good Love, which, as mentioned earlier, was produced by Kashif, who'd worked with Evelyn King, Melba Moore, and Howard Johnson, among a slew of other R&B acts, which would lend the single credibility among R&B audiences. In March, a single, All at Once, was released, specifically in Europe and Japan. It also received a promo video. You Give Good Love debuted on the R&B charts that same month at number 89. The following week, it rose 14 chart positions, and the week after, it did the same. Her album debuted on the pop charts at 166 on March 30th, and the following week, it debuted at number 47 on the R&B albums chart. The music video for You Give Good Love featured Houston performing the song in a sleek leather jacket as a smitten cameraman films her and her backup singers. 4 years prior, the cable network MTV was launched, and by that point, it drew in big ratings, airing music videos by major musical acts, very few of whom were of color. Unfortunately, the network rejected Houston's video for being too R&B for a rock/pop oriented station. By April, You Give Good Love was in the top 40 on the R&B charts. Her album had inched up 30 positions. The song was included in a list of, quote, trashy music by the Chicago Tribune's advice columnist Ann Landers, and was used as an example of a song that would have gotten a teen-oriented radio station in LA in hot water. Whitney performed the song on The Merv Griffith Show and The Tonight Show. You Give Good Love would continue to gain momentum on the R&B charts through the spring until its peak at number 1 on May 25th. The single also debuted on the pop charts in early May at number 67, steadily gaining momentum until its July 27th peak at number 3. By then, her debut was certified gold. Whitney Houston and Jermaine Jackson's song, Shock, was included on the official soundtrack of the film Perfect, which starred John Travolta and Jamie Lee Curtis. Billboard magazine declared that the song fell flat. On August 13th, the second single from the set, entitled Saving All My Love, was released. Originally recorded by Marilyn McCoo and Billy Davis Jr., Houston's rendition was favorably received by critics, with the LA Times proclaiming it should mean a cinch Grammy nomination. It had already been on the R&B charts before its release. Whitney appeared on the cover of the August 26th issue of Jet magazine, and her cover story read, "This is the year of Whitney Houston, the gifted young songstress who turned 22 on August 9th, is chasing stardom in a big way with her smash self-titled debut album and 2 hit singles. To top it all, the sultry lady of song, who is a noted fashion model, is on a whirlwind tour with Jeffrey Osborne, which has taken the nation by storm. It's very exciting," she told Jet. "My mom taught me everything that I know about this business, about singing, studio work, and things like that." She also discussed the alleged pressures of living up to the success of her mother and famous cousin, Dionne Warwick. "If I were to try to live up to my mother and Dionne, I will be trying to do that for the rest of my life, because they are just great ladies in this business. That's just nothing to try to conquer. I do the best that I can, and that's it. The single on the Hot 100 at number 53, jumping 14 chart positions the following week. The music video, which was directed by Stuart Orme and filmed in London during a promotional tour, mirrors the song's themes of infidelity, and MTV chose to air it only because its popularity had become such that they couldn't ignore it. Whitney Houston also performed the song on Late Night with David Letterman.
Our next guest tonight is a talented singer who has recently been getting an awful lot of attention. This is her first album right here, and it's already doing very, very, very well, singing Saving All My Love for You. Please welcome Whitney Houston.
A few stolen moments is all that we share. You got your family, and they need you there. Though I try to resist being last on your list, but no other man's gonna do. So I'm saving all my love for you. It's not very easy living all alone.
By October 26th, Saving All My Love was her first number one on the pop charts. That month also saw the release of the third single, entitled Thinking About You, which was produced by Kashif. By Thinking About You's October 19th debut on the R&B charts at number 76, her debut album was already among the top 5 highest charting debut albums by a female solo artist in the rock era. On November 22nd, the fourth single from the album, How Will I Know, was released. It was positively received by critics, with one noting it was similar to the Pointer Sisters' He's So Shy, yet still irresistibly danceable. By then, Saving All My Love had also gained traction internationally, appearing in the top 20 in the UK, New Zealand, Switzerland, and France. How Will I Know debuted on the pop charts on December 7th, 1985 at number 60. By the end of the month, it entered the top 40. Whitney also appeared on the cover of People magazine, and her article read, Whitney Houston climbs out of her black stretch limo and strides into the hilltop headquarters of Philadelphia's WSL at 4:40 p.m., right on time for her fourth live radio interview since 2 that afternoon. The rangy 5'8" former model personifies casual elegance, a 22-year-old Nefertiti who carries herself with frightening self-assurance. Her sold-out Carnegie Hall performances last month attracted Eddie Murphy, Daryl Hannah, comic Howie Mandel, Nick Ashford, and Valerie Simpson. Even New York Mayor Ed Koch showed up to see what all the fuss was about. He got booed by some in the crowd, and the singer, who once wanted to be a teacher, told them that wasn't nice. Whitney heads for the hotel, digging into a brown bag dinner of deli sandwiches, barbecue chips, and soft drinks. With Whitney due to perform at Philly's Tower Theater in less than 3 hours, there is no time for a classier repast. A typical day in the life of this rising star. For her father, John Houston, 56, who has come along for the limo ride, this is history repeating itself. Whitney's mother is Cece Houston, 52, founder of the Sweet Inspirations, the pop gospel quartet that arranged and sang backup vocals for Aretha Franklin and others during the 60s. You can't remember the first time you were in a recording studio because your mother was pregnant with you, says John, laughing at the memory. Cissy spent the summer of 1963 in Atlantic Records' New York studio before delivering her daughter in August. Yeah, answers Whitney, the youngest of three. Mommy said the producers were real jittery, but she told them to quit worrying and get on with it. She appeared on The Merv Griffith Show and performed the single. A music video, of course, was shot, presumably to make MTV. Instead of a staged performance, she was set against video screens and partitions, performing dance moves. Of course, it received heavy rotation on MTV. Award season was very kind to Whitney. On January 27, 1986, at the American Music Awards, she received 6 nominations, making her the top nominee.
Let's go!
More than 20,000 record buyers across the country voted on last night's awards, and the big winner was
Whitney Houston.
Whitney Houston, Whitney Houston! Whitney Houston! Whitney Houston!
Houston walked away with 5 awards, including Favorite Pop Rock and R&B Album, and Favorite Female in the same 2 categories.
Thank you so much. God bless you, really. Thank
The
you.
night clearly belonged to Houston, who seemed genuinely shocked at her good fortune. For whatever reason, she decided to skip the traditional backstage meeting with the press. But she did sit down with us later in her dressing room and offered up a simple formula for success.
Working with some great people, hard work. That's how it's done.
How Will I Know peaked at number 1 on the pop charts on February 15th, staying there for 2 weeks. She appeared on the cover of the February 17th issue of Jet magazine, and her write-up read, "When sultry Whitney Houston accepted the first of 2 American Music Awards during the recently telecast awards ceremony, the first thing she did was thank God." Miss Houston has quickly become one of the hottest recording artists to emerge on the music scene in recent years. Her self-titled debut album has sold nearly 3 million copies, and what's equally impressive about the talented young lady is that she has a sweet, honest, down-to-earth attitude about her phenomenal success. She is like the girl next door. She always thanks God for her talent and success and is grateful to her gifted family who have helped nurture her talents. She was nominated for 4 Grammy Awards at the 28th Grammy Awards, including Album of the Year and Best Pop Vocal Performance, tying her for nominations with Tina Turner.
Wednesday, E.T. covers the Grammys, inside, outside, on stage, and off.
I feel great. I feel great. I feel good.
At the ceremony on February 25th, she'd wind up winning for Best Pop Vocal Performance, whilst also giving a show-stopping performance of Saving All My Love, for which she'd later receive an Emmy nomination.
But earlier in the day, there was a lot of hand-wrenching and cigarette smoking for this family, which has for so long felt the pressures of the music business and days like these.
She'll lock into the family if she finds that things get a little bit too difficult, or she begins to feel pressure. You find her coming home real quick.
Having my family here is, I wouldn't want to have anybody else here but my mom and dad and my family, my friends, and it's just good to have them here and to know that they're there with me and that they're going to be rooting for me and that they're proud of me.
Billboard magazine declared her the top black female artist, the best new pop artist, best new black artist, top singles artist, and top adult contemporary artist. The final single from the album in March of '86 was entitled Greatest Love of All, a cover of a George Benson song. That same month, a year after the album had been released, Whitney Houston's debut peaked at number 1, where it would stay for 14 weeks. The Greatest Love of All, too, would become a #1 hit by May in mammoth proportions. It remained #1 for 3 weeks and was a success in Australia, Austria, Belgium, Canada, Europe, Finland, Iceland, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Panama, Sweden, Switzerland, and Germany. MTV camera crews were present on the set of the video for the single, which was filmed at the famed Apollo Theater in New York.
I remember being here when I was younger and seeing a lot of great people. James Brown, the Sweet Inspirations, Aretha Franklin, Jerry Butler, Wilson Pickett, all the greats and great people.
This was the same station that deemed her too R&B to play her videos. She was so pop by this release that she did a channel bumper for the network while on the set of The Greatest Love of All video. In May, she appeared on the cover of People magazine with subtext that read, "You name her America's top new star," and was given the key to her hometown of Newark, New Jersey, a full circle moment for the daughter of a Newark city administrator. By the summer of 1986, Whitney Houston was big enough to headline a world tour, and she did just that in the Greatest Love World Tour, which kicked off on July 26, 1986 in Columbia, Maryland, in front of a sold-out audience. By then, her album had sold 6 million copies and was the best-selling LP by a black female vocalist. She did 53 dates across North America, Europe, and Asia. In September, she once again appeared on the cover of Jet as her tour commenced, and the article read, "When sultry Whitney Houston opens her concert with Michael Jackson's Wanna Be Starting Something, she means what she sings." The 23-year-old songstress, who won her first Grammy Award earlier this year, is starting something big as she headlines her first U.S. tour. What she is starting is a superstar status. Last year, she opened for crooners Jeffrey Osborne and Luther Vandross. This year, the alluring performer is the headliner at major theaters and arenas nationwide. Backed with a 9-piece band, and for backup vocalist, Miss Houston also introduces 2 new tunes from her album scheduled for release in January. I Wanna Dance with Somebody, a funky song up-tempo tune, and the Michael Masser ballad, Didn't We Almost Have It All. She was interviewed during her July 29th, August 1st dates in Boston, and she also received a day in Boston in her honor. In October, she snagged an Emmy for her performance of Saving All My Love at the Grammys earlier that year. She'd remain on tour until December, grossing $4 million in the US alone. Capitalizing off of her popularity, Arista issued a VHS collection of all her videos, which went platinum. The big tour, all the press write-ups, and the big hits, of course, were all a part of the plan. Arista Records was hell-bent on making Whitney Houston an international star when she signed her name on a contract. Her experience as a model, attempts at acting with appearances on Give Me a Break, and of course, her gospel-rooted and pop-prime vocals made her a genuine triple threat.
My mother and I were in the Carnegie Hall building. We were going to see a photographer who had taken pictures of me 3 years prior to that time. We were looking for his name on the roster, and a man just walked over to me. He looked like he was a photographer, like he had a camera. He had a camera on, and he said, "You should go to the new modeling agency upstairs. They're looking for a young lady just like you."
You obviously get a lot of feedback about how sexy you are. How do you respond to that?
I have this thing about being sexy and where sex comes from. Either you have it or you don't. And it's nothing you can put on. It has to come from inside.
Your earliest inspirations are your mother, Aretha Franklin, your cousin Dionne Warwick. Can you tell me some of the ways that they inspired you?
Well, my mother is my greatest inspiration out of anybody. Beside my mom will be Aretha. Of course, Dionne. You know, my family is my greatest inspiration. But I guess it goes back to when I first heard Aretha sing, or when I was in the studio and I saw Aretha and Sweet Inspirations working together, and I heard Aretha's voice. It's just something that she has, and the way she makes people feel, you know, was what I wanted to have, you know, what I said, ooh, if I could ever be a singer, that's the way I'd want to make people feel. I want to have that kind of gut feeling that where I can make myself feel good and make everybody else feel good. Yeah.
When you're singing now, do you feel that?
Oh, yes. I wouldn't sing if I couldn't.
1985, you were chosen the best new female singer. What do you think people saw in you that made them choose you?
It was time, you know, it was time for singing to come back again, to listen to words, you know, to feel what somebody was saying instead of what, you know, what the pop was or what the beat was, you know. It's not about sex, it's not about this, it's not about, you know, being out and all that. It's about just what's, you know, what's happening. I think they were ready for it. I really do.
Following the conclusion of the Greatest Love World Tour, Whitney put the finishing touches on her sophomore effort, which Clive Davis wanted released as early as September of 1986. By May of the new year, with a multi-platinum debut, a high-grossing world tour, and record labels crafting their own version of a Whitney Houston, Sissy's Baby was gearing up to do the whole thing over again, but better.
It's very exciting. Things that happen, like selling 6 million copies of records, I did not expect. But I didn't expect not to either, you know. It's just something that happened and just feels good. Just having success. It's can be quite much, you know, at some point. Your time is taken away from you, your privacy, things of that nature, but it's just handling success, period. You know, some people think that it's just the glory and the glamour and the glitz and all that stuff, but it's quite a chore.